Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel, Programming 101. I'm glad you can make it here. So today I wanted to show you guys a preview of my minigame, show you guys how I come up with the enemy following the player, stopping at a certain point, and then running away from the player based on a line cast. So let me show you a preview here real quick. What we're going to want here is a couple of variables. We're going to start with, and these don't necessarily need to be public. I can do serialized field, which is a private field, but you have the option to edit in the inspector. I'm going to create the first one called distance, and that's to measure how far my line cast, my invisible line, will shoot out from the enemy towards a player. I'm going to create another one, and this is going to be the distance for my second line that detects when the player should run away from the enemy, when the enemy should run away from the player, excuse me. Okay. This other float is going to be my speed towards the player. Let's do this, move towards speed. I'll move towards speed. And I want another one for move backward speed. Okay. Let's not forget to put float in here. Okay. And lastly, we want a layer mask so that basically this line is going to shoot and it's only going to detect the layer I choose from a layer mask. And this is going to be a drop down in the inspector. Layer mask. I'm going to call this one layer. And of course, we need a reference to our rigid body. 2D. I'm going to just call this rigid body, RB. Okay. We need to call the rigid body and get a reference to it. So here we go, RB equals get component. 3D. What I'm going to do is create those invisible line cast lines to shoot out from the enemy towards the player. The way we're going to do that is, this is a 2D game, so we're going to call the vector 2. We're first going to specify the direction. And you know what I forgot? I don't want this line to shoot out. And let me get you this. Let me get the attention to the enemy. I don't want this line to shoot out from the player's body from here towards the player. I want the laser line, the line cast, to shoot from the rifle shooting point and towards the right. So what I'm going to do, and what I've done, is created a reference to that. So I created a transform, and I called it gunpoint 2. And I basically moved it towards the muzzle right here, not the muscle, excuse me, and attached it right there. So we're going to reference the gunpoint 2 transform position, so it shoots from here to the right. And I need to create a reference for that, and I'm just basically going to call this public transform. gun point 2. The reason for gun point 2 is I already have one called gun point, and I don't want to have two duplicates here to compute for confusion purposes. So gun point 2 will do. So we go back to the top where my script resides. We'll move gun point to gun point 2. Come back in here in my code. Now we can basically reference gun point 2. It's going to be the starting point for my laser in its position. Plus, I want this to go to the right. So I'm going to create this shortcut, vector 3.right. You don't want to type in new vector x and y. And we're going to multiply this by the distance. And the distance is going to be what we select here as a float. So we're going to want this to go 5 points to the right. Now we're going to create the raycast. So we want to collide a raycast. So we're going to select hit 2D. I'm going to call this one move toward. I'm going to call the physics 2D component. And I want a line cast. I want it to have a distance, not a raycast. A raycast just shoots out indefinitely. This one will shoot out based on my vectors and directions. Get linear sleep tolerance. No, we don't want that. Line cast. So we want this to start again from the gun point 2 position and go towards the direction I specified at the top. And I wanted to hit only the layer I choose, nothing else. And lastly, I want this to draw a line when I hit play so that I can see how far it's shooting. And this line will only show in the scene view and not in the game view. So if you expect it to show in the game and it's not showing up in there, it's because it's only for debugging. 1.2.position. We have to specify basically the same as your raycast hit 2D, except we have one more parameter, which is color. You want that pretty line to display. You want a color of green. Who doesn't like green? Okay, so let's hit play here. Let's save, hit play, and see what we got. To the right with a distance of 5. So let's hit play here. Oops, I think I might have to. And okay, we need to take off maximize on play, hit pause to restart, pause again. Now we can go to scene view and we should see a line shooting to the right, and we don't. Why is that? Oh crap, I always forget this. Alright, so error 101. Why is my line not shooting out to the right? Pretty simple. I created a method here and I'm not calling it. See what I mean? How can I expect it to run if it's just sitting there, but it's not being called? So update calls at every frame. I'll leave it there for now. Hit save. And let's try this again. We should now see a line project out of this muzzle to the right. Oh, wait on my slow PC. I apologize if anybody wants to donate to my good cause. I need a PC and a microphone, which is in the works. In the future, I will get that. Okay, play is being played. And look at that. Now, from here, you guys can choose whether you want this to be a larger line or a shorter line. For me, 5 works. All right, so nothing's happening right now. We just have a line emitting from the enemy. Nothing fancy. As I said, you can't see the line for debugging purposes. So now what we want to do is make something happen when that green line emits from the gun. So let's go back to Visual Studio and make that happen. So we're going to make that line do something. So whenever that line shoots, we're going to have the player move towards, we're going to have the enemy, move towards the player or the vehicle. And the way we're going to do that is basically an if statement here. And she is acting horrible. So we're going to reference the move toward line, and we're going to reference its collider. We want to see what it's colliding with. And we basically want to say if the move towards, basically if the line that I'm emitting, the green line, if it's no, do something. What do we want it to do? We want it to move towards player. How do we do that? We have reference to the rigid body. We're just going to call velocity. In order to create velocity, we do rb.velocity equals new vector 2. From here, it's going to want, and I'll show you here, it's going to want a float for the x and a float for the y. Basically, you want me to move right, or do you want me to move left? And it's simple as that. A 1 to the right, a -1 to the left. So we want it to go to the right. We're going to select the 1, and then we're going to select the how fast do we want it to move to the right. We're going to use the variable here that I called move toward speed that you can modify in the inspector. And we don't want to make any changes to the velocity in case we decide to make this feather jump. We want to leave its velocity alone. If you hit 0, it will always change the velocity of the y to 0, and you don't want that if you decide to make this guy do a Mario jump. So let's hit play here. But first, let's remove this new. And let's see what happens when we do that. 15 minutes in, 15 minutes left. All right. I apologize if my microphone is sucky. So we're going to expect this guy to shoot a line, move towards a player, and stop once it hits and detects this player, because this player is on the layer called main. The enemy is going to be shooting a laser, which I like to call a laser, but it's a raycast line or a line cast. It's going to shoot that line to and look for a main object or an object in the main layer. So here we go. Come on. And we'll just sit here and idle and see if any magic happens. So the enemy should come towards the enemy, towards the player. There's no animation currently. I'm working on that next. And it stopped. Beautiful. So it stopped when it hit my vehicle, which is what we want. And currently, if I go towards the enemy, he just stays there. So what we want to do next, is basically have the player run away from the vehicle. It does not do anything, so let's work on that next. He actually follows you, so that's perfect. That's beautiful. That's what we want him to do. All right, so we got that out of the way. He follows us perfectly. Now we want him to run, and we can basically, I guess we can say No, no. We're going to need another line cast. We'll make this one red. So let's do this. So we're going to create another line. And we're going to call this direction 2, which we already have. Nope, we don't. And do this position.